Captain Lee Minho felt the deck shake beneath his feet as sparks flew from the control panels around him. The UES Perseverance, humanity's largest colony ship, groaned like a wounded animal as its quantum drive died with a final, terrible screech. Red emergency lights flashed across the bridge, painting everything in blood-colored shadows. "Captain!" Park Jisoo shouted from her navigation station, her young face tight with fear. "The drive core is completely dead. We're stuck here." Minho grabbed the nearest support rail as another shutter ran through the massive ship. Through the main viewport, he could see only empty space and distant stars. They were somewhere between galaxies farther from home than any human had ever been. 50,000 people depended on him, and now they were all trapped in the middle of nowhere. "How bad is it?" he asked Chief Engineer Kim Do-yeon over the comm system. "Bad, sir. Really bad." Do-yeon's voice crackled with static. "The quantum drive didn't just break down, it exploded. We've got fires on 3 decks, and the main power grid is failing. We're losing atmosphere on the outer sections." The ship had been humanity's greatest achievement. 3 miles long and home to 50,000 colonists. It carried everything they needed to start a new life on a distant world. But more than that, it was a symbol of cooperation between 3 different species. For the first time in galactic history, aliens had agreed to travel alongside humans as partners, not just allies. The Valathi were tall, graceful beings with large eyes and skin that changed color with their emotions. They were the smartest species anyone had ever met, able to solve problems that would take human computers days to figure out. 200 of them lived in the forward sections of the ship, working as scientists and teachers. The Corvin were different. They looked like walking metal sculptures, with 4 arms and voices that sounded like machinery. They were the best engineers in the galaxy, able to build things that seemed impossible. 150 of them worked in the lower decks, keeping all the ship's systems running. Both alien species had joined the human colony mission as a grand experiment. 3 different kinds of people, working together to build something new among the stars. It had been going so well until now. "Captain, we have a major problem," Communications Officer Choi Mina called out, her voice shaking. "Section C is breaking away from the main hull. The structural supports just snapped." Minho rushed to the emergency display screen and watched in horror as a huge piece of his ship tore away like a leaf in a storm. The section spun slowly as it drifted into space, its lights flickering weakly. "Who's in that section?" he demanded. "All the Valathi civilians, sir. About 200 of them, plus the main Corvin engineering team, maybe 150. Mina's fingers flew over her controls as she tried to get more information. "They're alive, but barely. That section wasn't designed to operate on its own." The bridge fell silent, except for the sound of alarms and the groaning of metal under stress. Everyone knew what this meant. The broken section had only emergency power and life support. Without help, everyone inside would die within days. Pilot Seo Hunjin turned from his station, his face pale. "Captain, the evacuation fleet is ready to launch. The main Valathi and Corvin command ships are preparing to leave." Through the comm system, alien voices filled the bridge. The Valathi fleet mind spoke in their musical language, which the ship's computer translated into cold, emotionless words. "The separated section cannot be saved. We must preserve the majority. This is logical." The Corvin engineer agreed with their mechanical-sounding voices. Resources spent on impossible rescue reduce survival probability for remaining population. Acceptable losses must be accepted. Minho stared at the screen, showing the drifting section. Inside were hundreds of living beings, people who had trusted humanity enough to leave their homeworlds and journey into the unknown. Scientists who had shared their knowledge freely. Engineers who had worked alongside humans as friends. Now their own people were ready to abandon them. "Sir?" Lieutenant Commander Yoon Tae-young waited for orders, But Minho could see the same thoughts in every human face on the bridge. The math was simple and brutal. Their small rescue shuttles couldn't carry everyone. The broken section would lose power completely in less than 3 days. Any rescue attempt would probably fail, and might kill the rescuers too. But as Minho looked at his crew, he knew that none of the calculations mattered. Medical Officer Han Soyoung was already checking her supplies. Shuttle Bay Chief Ominj was running diagnostics on their small fleet of rescue craft. Every human on the bridge was thinking the same thing, even though nobody had said it yet. The alien fleets were already powering up their engines, ready to leave the humans behind, with their broken ship and impossible choice. Through the viewport, Minho could see the lights of the departing vessels growing brighter as they prepared to jump to hyperspace. He thought about the Velothi teacher who had been learning to speak Korean, the Corvin engineer who had helped human children build toy robots. All the small moments of friendship and cooperation that had made this journey special. The captain's decision crystallized in his mind like ice forming on a window. He knew what they had to do, even if it killed them all. Captain Lee Minho stood in the center of the bridge, watching the alien ships prepare to leave. The main screen showed the broken section of his ship spinning slowly in space, its emergency lights growing dimmer by the hour. Inside that twisted piece of metal were 350 people who were going to die unless someone helped them. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Yoon Taeyong said quietly, holding a datapad with numbers that told a terrible story. Our shuttles can carry maybe 60 people each trip. We have 4 working shuttles. That's 240 people maximum, if everything goes perfect. The bridge crew listened in silence. Everyone could do the math. 350 people trapped, but they could only save 240. And that was if nothing went wrong, if no shuttles broke down, if they had enough time. How much time do we have? Minho asked. The broken section has emergency power for maybe 72 hours, Chief Engineer Kim Doyen reported over the comm. But sir, our shuttles only have 18 hours of life support each, maybe 20 if we push everything to the limit. Medical Officer Han Soyoung looked up from her supply list, her face grim. I've got medical supplies for maybe 100 people. If we stretch everything thin, maybe 150. But Captain, some of those Corvin are already hurt bad from the accident. The numbers were impossible. They didn't have enough shuttles, enough time, enough supplies, or enough air. Any rescue attempt would probably fail. Even if it worked perfectly, they couldn't save everyone. Through the comm system, the Velothi Fleet Mind's translated voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, you must evacuate immediately. The rescue probability is less than 15%. This is not acceptable risk. The Corvin Engineering Collective agreed with their mechanical sounds. Logic demands preservation of the many over the few. Human crew should depart with main fleet. Pilot Seo Hunjin turned in his chair to face the captain. Sir, the alien commanders are right. The math doesn't work. We can't save them all. Minho looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people, smart people. They all knew the situation was hopeless. Communications Officer Choi Mina was barely 25 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. Navigation Officer Park Jisoo had a family waiting for her at their destination. Every person on this bridge could live if they just got on the evacuation ships and left. But as he looked at their faces, Minho saw something else. He saw Han Soyoung checking her medical supplies one more time, trying to figure out how to stretch them further. He saw Oh Min-jae on the lower decks, already starting to strip spare parts from the broken shuttles to make them work better. Sir Yoon Taeyong was waiting for the order to evacuate. Minho activated the ship-wide communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor and room on the Perseverance. All crew, this is Captain Lee Minho. I'm going to be honest with you. We have a choice to make, and it's not a good one. He paused, looking at the screen that showed the dying section of their ship. 350 of our friends are trapped out there. The computers say we can't save them all. The alien commanders say we shouldn't even try. They say it's too dangerous, too risky, too stupid. Another pause. In the silence, they could all hear the creaking of their damaged ship. But here's what I know about humans. We don't leave people behind. We don't do the math and decide some lives don't matter. We don't make the smart choice when the smart choice means watching good people die. Minho's voice got stronger, more determined. I'm ordering a full rescue attempt. Anyone who wants to evacuate with the alien fleet has 30 minutes to transfer to their ships. No questions asked, no shame, no judgment. This is volunteer only. He turned off the comm and waited. Around him, the bridge crew looked at each other. These were smart people who understood exactly how dangerous this was going to be. Communications. Officer Choi Mina spoke first. Captain, requesting permission to contact the engineering teams. We're going to need every spare oxygen tank on the ship. Granted. Pilot Seo Hunjin was already running diagnostics on the shuttle systems. Sir, if we strip the emergency pods for parts, I can maybe get the shuttles running 25% longer. Medical Officer Han Soyang stood up. I'm going to need volunteers to donate blood. The Corvin and Valathi blood types are different, but we can use human plasma as a temporary substitute. One by one, every person on the bridge volunteered for the most dangerous rescue mission in human history. 30 minutes passed. The evacuation deadline came and went. Through the viewports they could see the alien ships waiting, their engines glowing as they prepared to jump to safety. Shuttle Bay Chief Oh Minja's voice came over the comm. Captain, this is the Shuttle Bay. Evacuation report ready. Go ahead, Chief. Sir, we had exactly 0 crew members request transfer to the evacuation fleet. Repeat, 0 transfers. Every single human on this ship is staying for the rescue. The alien fleet began moving, their ships disappearing one by one into hyperspace, leaving the humans alone with their impossible mission. Minho looked at his crew and smiled grimly. Well, people, I guess we're all crazy together. Let's go save some lives. 24 hours into the rescue mission, everything was going wrong. Commander Cham Minju floated in the cold darkness of space, her suit's heating system barely keeping her alive as she worked on the outside of the broken ship section. Her hands were so cold she could barely feel them, but she kept welding pieces of metal together, trying to patch the holes that were letting all the air leak out. Minju, how's it going out there? Captain Lee Minho's voice crackled in her helmet. Radio. Like trying to fix a broken egg while someone keeps stepping on it, she replied, sparks flying from her welding tool. But I think I can stop the biggest air leaks. Give me another hour. Inside the damaged section, Dr. Han Soyoung was working miracles with almost nothing. She had turned a storage closet into a medical center, using spare blankets as beds and emergency lights to see by. Around her, injured Corvin and Valathi lay waiting for help she wasn't sure she could give. Doctor, this one is getting worse, said Medic Bei Jiwan, kneeling next to a young Corvin whose metal skin was cracked and leaking blue fluid. I don't think our medicine works on his people. Soyang wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at her nearly empty medical bag. She had started the rescue with supplies for 100 people. Now she was trying to treat 350, and she was running out of everything. Use the human blood plasma, she told Jiwan. It won't fix him completely, but it might keep him alive long enough for us to get him to a real hospital. But doctor, that's the last bag of plasma. If one of our people gets hurt, then we'll figure something else out. Soyang was all ready, moving to the next patient, a Valathi female whose large eyes were closed in pain. We use everything we have. That's how this works. Outside the broken section, pilot Kong Ji-hoon was trying to dock his shuttle with a piece of the ship that was spinning like a broken toy. His shuttle, the Indomitable, was held together with spare parts and hope. Every time he got close enough to connect, the spinning section would knock him away. "This is impossible," muttered his co-pilot, Engineer Song Yuna, as they bounced off the damaged hull for the fourth time. "The docking ports are all twisted. We can't get a good seal." "Then we make our own seal," Ji-hoon said, pushing the shuttle's engines harder than they were designed to go. "Yuna, get ready to use the emergency airlock. We're going in through the cargo bay." "Ji-hoon, that's crazy. The cargo bay door is half destroyed." "I know, but those people in there are counting on us." The Indomitable scraped along the broken hull, its metal skin tearing as Ji-hoon forced it into position. Alarms screamed in the cockpit as the shuttle's protective shell cracked. But somehow, they managed to line up with the damaged cargo bay, inside the broken section. The survivors watched in amazement as the human rescue teams worked. The Velothi had always believed that intelligent beings made decisions based on logic and self-interest. But these humans were doing things that made no sense at all. Velti, a young Velothi scientist, watched as Engineer Park Wonho shared his oxygen mask with an unconscious Corvin worker. The human would breathe for 30 seconds, then give the mask to the alien for 30 seconds, back and forth, sharing the air that was keeping them both alive. "Why does he do this?" Velthi asked through the translation device. "The Corvin cannot help him. This action provides no benefit." Medical technician Go Yunwoo, who was barely old enough to be in space, looked up from the bandages she was making from torn clothing. "Because he's hurt, and we're not." "But you are hurt," Velthi pointed out. The young human had a cut on her head and was obviously exhausted. "You have given your medical supplies to others. You have given your food to others. What do you gain?" Yun smiled, even though she looked like she might fall over from tiredness. "We get to sleep at night, knowing we did the right thing." Hour 56 brought disaster. The Indomitable, already damaged from its rough docking, finally gave up. Ji felt the shuttle's hull crack completely as he tried to make one more trip to the rescue ships. "We're losing air fast," Yuna reported, her voice calm despite the emergency. "Hull breach in the main cabin. We've got maybe 10 minutes before this thing falls apart completely." Ji-hoon looked through the airlock at the 40 Velothi and Corvin, still waiting to be rescued. 10 minutes wasn't enough time to get them all to safety, but if he and his crew abandoned the shuttle now, they could save themselves. "Yuna sealed the airlock behind us," he said quietly. "What? Seal it. We're staying. Use the shuttle's life support to keep these people alive until the next rescue ship gets here." Song Yuna stared at him. "Ji-hoon, if we do that, we'll die. The next shuttle won't get here for at least 30 minutes, and we only have 10 minutes of air left." "I know." Ji-hoon was already helping an injured Corvin through the airlock. "But they'll live. All 40 of them." "This is not logical," said Morka, the Corvin engineering prime, as the humans sealed themselves inside the dying shuttle. "Your sacrifice provides no mathematical benefit to your species." Ji-hoon smiled as he shared his oxygen mask with a Velothi child. "Maybe not, but it's the human thing to do." The Indomitable died quietly, its lights going out one by one. But inside, 40 alien survivors breathed steady air, kept alive by 3 humans who chose to give everything for strangers they barely knew. Dr. Lim Chong had been awake for 3 days straight. Her hands shook as she checked the medical scanner over the Corvin patient lying on the makeshift bed. The alien's metal-like skin was cracked in several places, and blue fluid leaked from the wounds. She had used up all her proper medical supplies hours ago, and was now using human bandages and medicine that might not even work on alien bodies. The medical bay of the rescue ship Harmony was crowded with survivors from the broken section. Velathian Corvin patients filled every available space, lying on beds made from spare blankets and cargo containers. The air smelled like antiseptic and fear, but also something else, hope. "Doctor, you need to rest," said medical technician Kim Ji-soo, trying to take the scanner from Chae-young's shaking hands. "You're going to collapse." "Can't rest yet," Chae-young mumbled, moving to check on a Velothi female whose large eyes followed her movements with curiosity. "Still have patience." Velothi, the young Velothi scientist, watched the human doctor work with growing confusion. In Velothi society, everything was about logic and knowledge. People helped each other when it made sense, when there was something to gain. But this human was giving everything she had to help strangers from different species. "I do not understand," Velothi said through her translation device, her skin changing to a puzzled blue color. "Dr. Chowing, you have worked for 72 hours without sleep. You have given your own medical supplies to us, your own food, even your own blood for transfusions. What do you receive in return?" Cha-young looked up from her patient, her young face lined with exhaustion. Her hair was messy, her uniform stained with various alien blood types, but she smiled. "I get to help people who need help, but we are not your people," Velothi pressed. "We cannot advance your genetic line. We cannot provide reciprocal benefits to your species. Your actions lack evolutionary logic." From across the room, Corvin Engineer Prime Morka joined the conversation. The Corvin was one of the most logical beings in the galaxy, someone who made every decision based on efficiency and mathematical probability. "The human Ji-hoon died for us," he said, his mechanical voice translated by the ship's computer. "He had offspring on your colony ship, genetic investment, yet he chose death to preserve alien life forms. This behavior serves no computational purpose." Other survivors in the medical bay began listening to the conversation. These were some of the smartest beings in the galaxy, Velothi scientists who could solve problems that took human computers days to figure out, and Corvin engineers who built impossible machines. But none of them could understand what they had witnessed during the rescue. Communications officer Lee Hannah, who had been monitoring ship systems while the medical team worked, turned from her station. She was covered in grease from helping repair the damaged life support systems, and she looked as tired as everyone else. But when she heard the aliens' questions, she walked over to join them. "You want to know why we did it?" she asked simply. "Yes," said Velothi. "Your species behaves in ways that contradict all known models of intelligent behavior. You risk everything for beings who cannot benefit you." Hannah sat down on an empty medical crate, thinking about how to explain something that seemed so obvious. To her, around the room, other human crew members paused in their work to listen. "On Earth, we have a saying," Hannah began. "It goes like this: no one gets left behind. It means that when someone is in trouble, you help them. It doesn't matter if they're your family or a stranger. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien. It doesn't matter if helping them puts you in danger. But why?" Morka's mechanical voice carried genuine confusion. "This provides no logical advantage." "Because they're people," said Medic Bei Jiwan, who was bandaging a Corvin's damaged arm with strips torn from her own uniform. "They think and feel and have families and dreams, just like us. That's all that matters." The simple statement seemed to hit the alien survivors like a physical force. Velthi's skin shifted through several colors as she processed this information. Morka's forearms moved in what his people called a processing gesture, trying to understand something that went against everything his logical mind had been taught. "You see us as ... people?" Velthi asked quietly. "Not as resources, or allies, or genetic competitors?" "Of course you're people," said Dr. Chae-young, not looking up from her work. "What else would you be?" Over the following days, as the survivors recovered aboard the human rescue ships, something remarkable began to happen. The cultural barriers that had existed between the three species for thousands of years started to crumble. Velothi civilians who had spent their lives studying logic and mathematics began asking human crew members to teach them about concepts like courage and sacrifice. They wanted to understand how these humans could make decisions based on something other than pure calculation. Corvin engineers, who had always worked alone because they trusted only their own logical processes, started working side by side with humans. They shared their advanced technology freely, not as a trade agreement, but because the humans had shown them what friendship actually meant. Young Valathi scientist Zarth approached medical technician Go Yunwoo one day and asked, "Will you teach us this thing you call compassion?" Yunwoo, barely 20 years old and running on determination and instant coffee, smiled tiredly. "Sure, but it's not really something you learn from books. It's something you do." The word spread through quantum communications to both alien homeworlds. The impossible rescue had become a legend. 6 months later, Captain Lee Min-ho stood at the observation window of the rebuilt U.S. Perseverance, watching something that should have been impossible. Stretching across the starfield in front of him was the largest fleet he had ever seen. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different species, all flying together in perfect formation. The graceful white ships of the Valathi moved alongside the blocky gray vessels of the Corvin. But there were others too, species that Min-ho had never seen before. Long, crystal ships that sparkled like diamonds. Dark vessels that seemed to absorb light. Small, fast ships that darted between the larger ones like excited children. "Captain," Communications Officer Shin Daeon called from his station, his voice filled with wonder. "We're receiving formal messages from the Valathi Council of Mines and the Corvin Engineering Collective." Min-ho walked over to read the translated messages on the main screen. What he saw there made him sit down hard in his command chair. The Valathi Council, the most ancient and wise governing body in their part of the galaxy, had done something they hadn't done in 10,000 years. They had granted humanity the title of Guardian Friends, a rank that meant complete trust and eternal alliance. The message explained that this honor had only been given to 3 other species in all of Valathi history, and never to a species so young. The Corvin message was even more shocking. The engineering collective, who valued efficiency and logic above all else, had declared humans to be builder brothers. They were opening their entire database of advanced technology to humanity. Secrets that had taken them millions of years to develop. "Sir," said Chief Medical Officer No Seojin, joining Min-ho at the window. "The xenobiology team just sent me their latest report. Do you want to hear something amazing?" "I'm not sure I can handle any more amazing today," Min-ho said with a tired smile, "but go ahead." 17 different species have adopted our rescue protocols. They've translated the phrase, "We don't leave people behind," into 437 different languages. Some of them have carved it into stone, monuments on their homeworlds. Through the window, they could see work crews from a dozen different species working together to repair and upgrade the human ships. Valathi scientists were sharing their most advanced research. Corvin engineers were installing technology that made human ships faster and stronger than ever before. But the most amazing thing was how they all worked together. There were no arguments about payment or trade agreements. No complex negotiations about who owed what to whom. The aliens were helping because they wanted to, because they had learned something from humanity's impossible rescue mission. "Captain," Communications Officer Park Ji-soo reported, "we're getting a transmission from Earth. It's not from the government or the military. It's from ... families." Min-ho frowned. "Families. The families of the 5 crew members we lost during the rescue. Ji-hoon, Yuna Won-ho, and the others. They want to send a message to the entire fleet. Put it through." The main screen filled with the faces of ordinary people, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, children who would never see their loved ones again. But instead of anger or sadness, their faces showed something else. Pride. An elderly woman, who looked like she might be Ji-hoon's mother, spoke first. "To our new friends among the stars, this is Earth calling. We are the families of the humans who died saving your people." Her voice was steady and strong. "We want you to know that our children died as they lived, believing that no person should face the darkness alone. They would be happy to know that their sacrifice helped bring so many different peoples together. A young man who might have been Yuna's brother continued, "We're not sad, we're proud. Proud that our family members showed the galaxy what humanity stands for. Proud that you've chosen to be our friends." The message continued with each family member speaking, welcoming the aliens not as distant allies, but as part of the human family. When it ended, the bridge of the Perseverance was silent, except for the quiet sounds of people wiping tears from their eyes. "Sir," said pilot Seo Hunjin, his voice thick with emotion. "The other ships in the fleet are responding. All of them." The communications board lit up with messages from hundreds of ships. Valathi scientists sending poems of gratitude. Corvin engineers sharing technical gifts. Species that Minho had never heard of, pledging friendship and support. But the message that touched him most came from Velti, the young Valathi scientist who had questioned Dr. Cheyung about human behavior during the rescue. Captain Min, her translated message read, "My people have studied logic and mathematics for millions of years. We thought we understood everything about intelligent behavior, but you humans taught us something we never knew existed. That sometimes the most illogical choice is also the most beautiful one." The fleet began its final jump toward their new home system, but it wasn't just a human colony mission anymore. It had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a true alliance of different species based not on trade or military necessity, but on friendship and trust. As the ships disappeared into hyperspace together, Minho thought about the 5 brave humans who had died to save alien strangers. Their sacrifice had changed the galaxy in ways that no one could have imagined. Sometimes, he realized, the most human thing to do was also the most important thing to do.